are listening to Rocket Shop Radio Hour on The Radiator. I'm your host, Abby BK, and with us in the studio tonight, we have FEZ Silk. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and thank you for making the drive to be here in the chilly weather.
Yeah,
15
my pleasure.
degrees.
My pleasure.
So to kick things off, we like to start off with a song. So do you want to play your first one for us?
Yeah, for sure. The song is called Virginia. Virginia, I'm not in love with you, but I've been sleeping in your bed and it's been keeping me warm. When I told you that I'd had enough of you, I'd already been planning on escaping in the long term. I'm a scoundrel, for I have hurt you some, but I'll never say I'm sorry for a thing I didn't do. You're a sound girl, and we've had a good run, but now I'm letting go of you. And don't make me walk away, I've got a good pair of shoelaces. I could leave you in the morning and I'd never look behind, setting my sights ahead of me on new people and new places. But oh, Virginia, I'd rather kiss you goodbye. Remember how you smiled at me when I said you bled the shade of red I'd like to paint this town. And then you kissed me in the floodlight, darling, and then you put me down. Well, I can't do this any longer. Oh, I loved your tongue until it stung me one too many times, and your anger, it makes me no stronger. Oh, Virginia, it just makes me wanna cry. But I'm the scoundrel, for I've been cruel to you, but I always have been honest, or I've tried my best to be. And remember that I was a fool for you once, so don't you come crawling home to me. And don't make me walk away, I'll lace my boots up a little tighter and carry on my shoulder things that money cannot buy. Slam the door behind me and I'll feel a little lighter. But Virginia, I would rather kiss you goodbye. Oh, Virginia, I would rather kiss you goodbye.
Virginia, FEZ Silk. So beautiful. So as I was looking at your bio, I saw that you're originally from California,
Yes.
now a Vermonter. So
That is
what is your
correct.
Vermont origin story?
My Vermont origin story is all about farming. I grew up in LA, very non-agricultural, you could say, in a suburb. And I told my dad when I was like 5 that I wanted to be a farmer. And he was like, no, you really don't. He was like, it's not what you think it is. I was like reading books about like horses and stuff.
Yep.
And he was like, it's not an easy life.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of forgot about it. I had a very like academic track growing up. And I started college in Northern California and I was super unhappy and I dropped out. And I was like, what can I do that is very different from what I've been doing? And I remembered farming. So I moved to Massachusetts and I worked on a dairy farm for a while. Then I moved to Virginia
Yeah.
where I farmed and where I also wrote that song, Virginia. Then I went to Italy for like a year and volunteered on some farms over there. Then I moved back to the States and I came up here to Vermont and worked at Cedar Circle Farm in Thetford. Little plug there. Great farm. Awesome farm. Had a great summer there.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for knowing, that you needed to make that jump. And I'm
Thanks.
sure the transition initially was probably a little maybe intimidating. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what are maybe some of do you find that farming inspires your songwriting? Like, what are some of the themes from that side of your life that you feel like infiltrate into your art that you make?
That's a great question. I think like there are a lot of artists that make like directly nature inspired art. I find for me it's more that like living a life that is more connected to like the earth, which I do through farming, just makes me so much happier that it's like, okay, I'm actually like able to create art because I'm not so worried about being unhappy all the time. So sometimes you do find like direct inspiration. Like sometimes I'm out in the woods or whatever and I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna make art about this. But like a huge part of it for me has just been like my mental health has improved so much since I like moved to the country and started working with the land instead of like being in suburbs or in the city or like on a college campus and like doing work that you can never see the results of because it's actually abstract and in your head. So I guess like a little bit of both. Like it does inspire my art directly in some ways sometimes, but also it just like, I don't know, it changed my life, honestly.
Yeah, it leaves you feeling fulfilled, which then maybe leaves you with more room to make art in general.
Yeah.
So do you feel like the places that you go, not just farming, so like you said that Virginia is also the title of the song and somewhere where you lived, you wrote that in Virginia.
Yeah.
Do you find that the different places that you've lived have also inspired your writing and kind of take us through that story of the song you just played?
Yeah, that's a good question because I feel like when I wrote this song, I was like working through a lot of emotions about like that part of my life. I lived in Virginia for a little under 1 year and it was like definitely a very transitional period in my life, and I think I sort of really wrote that into this song. And people often ask me like, is it about a person or is it about the state?
Right.
And sometimes I'm like, I don't even know. Like, yes.
Yes, all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the beauty of art is that it's up to people's interpretation too. So sometimes you don't want to answer the questions because you want them to figure it out.
Yeah.
So is there anything like unique that you've learned about like Vermont farming specifically? Like I know nothing about farming in general, so I'm curious like how the different areas differ and like what makes our like farming niche here.
Yeah, I feel like even a little underqualified to answer that question because I've only farmed here for 1 season. But I think like one of the very striking things about farming up here is water security. We have plenty of water here.
Yeah.
The farm I worked at this summer, Cedar Circle, is right on the Connecticut River. So we pull a lot of our irrigation straight from the river. And there's no limit on, at least yet, knock on wood, there's no limit on how much water you can pull. And like for someone who grew up in California, that's crazy. Like that we will like go a week without rain and call it a drought. And I'm like, y'all think this is a drought? Like California droughts, as we know right now, look so different from that.
Definitely.
But that's also what a lot of the people I farm with say is like water security in the Northeast is such a big thing, and we're lucky to have the abundance of water that we do.
So you grew up in California, you knew you wanted to be a farmer. When did you fall into music? When did you realize that that was something that you also wanted to pursue?
Yeah, so also kind of a funny backstory on that. I grew up in a household that did not listen to music.
Oh, wow.
But I always kind of had a thing for it. When I was really little, I would listen to a lot of classical music. And I begged my dad to let me take voice lessons. So I was classically trained when I was like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was 13, I found out about rock and roll. I think I listened to Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I gotta do. And I picked up the electric guitar, and just that became my thing for the next few years. Was like, I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to be David Bowie, just fully in that world. But I could never find members for a band. I was like looking around and just never formed a band. So I was like, guess I gotta write music that I can play by myself, because I can't find anyone else to play with me. And that's kind of how I started writing the music that I write now, I think.
Yeah, is the band idea something that is still kind of in the back of your mind that you've considered maybe trying to build out, or are you like really happy doing your solo
I think it would be
thing?
so fun to be in a band. I also do think I have kind of found a thing with my, like, I write the way I write now, and like I like the music I make now. So I wouldn't want to give that up, but I totally would love to like play with other people more than I do.
Yeah. And what is your writing process? Like, how do songs initially even come to you?
It's different with every song. It's different. I feel like in general, like a lot of other songwriters I talk to will fall into the camp of either like lyrics first or like melody / chords first. I find for me, I tend to get like a snippet of both at the same time. And maybe it's like one line, maybe it's like a phrase with a melody sort of attached to it, and then I write it out from there. But often it takes like weeks or months to finish a song.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question. Like, how long does it take you, and like how frequently do you feel like you're writing something new?
Yeah, totally depends. Totally depends on the song, totally depends on my phase of life. Like this summer, I wrote nothing. I wrote nothing in 2024 from January until like October. Nothing. And I was like, have I lost it?
Yeah.
But then I started writing again, so it's
Right.
very dependent.
Yeah, you kind of have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you like just like do in general to keep you musically inspired? Like, is there like certain music you like to listen to, or places you like to walk? I don't know, like anything that you feel like maybe would get you out of one of those like writing slumps.
Yeah, it's tricky when you're in the slump. You start like stressing. Like everything you do, you're like, is this gonna inspire me? Like, is this gonna break the writer's block? I find like consuming more art, whether it's music, like listening to new music that's like different from what I normally listen to, or even like reading books and like going to museums and stuff, can often like trigger something in my brain that's like, oh, this could be a thing that I make art out of.
Right.
But it's tricky when you get in a slump
Right.
to not try to force your way out of it. Like sometimes you have to let it just like play itself out.
Right. Yeah, naturally evolve into what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, we would love to hear your second song. So
Cool.
what is it called? And go right ahead.
The second song is Praying Mantis. She's a praying mantis, but she's got compunction, and she told me that it made her feel like some kind of monster, how she wanted you to want her like you did. But I understand, for the praying mantis has a strange attraction. It's impossible to fall for one and come out unaffected, and it's not what you expected it would be. But I understand how it feels to want something that it's better not to have. For I wanted her to in my time, though I kept it a secret. And it's taken me all of this time to be able to speak it.
I've been a fool for her. Any fool could have seen it. So what can I say but the praying mantis is my weakness? What can I say but the praying mantis is my weakness? She's a praying mantis, but she doesn't want to kill you. And the scientists conclude it must be something in her nature, but there's no good explanation for what it is. And it's not a fairy's and to hate her, it's just who she is. But I understand how it feels to hate something you once wanted to have. For I wanted her to in my time, though I kept it a secret. And it's taken me all of this time to be able to speak it. Oh, I'm not ashamed to say I've been a fool for her. Any fool could have seen it. So what can I say but the praying mantis is my weakness? What can I say but the praying mantis is my weakness?
Praying Mantis, Fez Silk. So, your music is up on YouTube and Bandcamp.
Yes.
So what are your like aspirations? Are you in the process of putting together some more music to release? What's new in that regard?
Yeah. I think I'm still trying to figure that out. I haven't like all the music that I have recorded on the internet right now, I've recorded myself.
Mm-hmm.
Just like at home, which is fine. Like it sounds okay, but it definitely sounds like bedroom recordings. It's very expensive to go to the studio, and I would love to, but I think at this point I'm like just trying to build up more of a following, like play more gigs around where I live or / around Vermont, and like have people that know me and want to hear me, and then maybe I'll drop some money on making an EP or an LP even, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Do you have like a batch of songs? I mean, obviously you have 4 tonight, that you think would be great for a project like that?
yeah, I have definitely enough for like a solid LP, maybe 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like an LP and like an EP or 2 EPs. Like I have a lot of music that I've been waiting to make an album out of for like a long time, but just waiting for it to be the right moment, I guess.
You're sitting on a gold mine. So what is your like at home setup? Like how do you like to record? There is a lot that you can do, you know, at home. And a lot of people do that. Like a lot of people that come in here too in Vermont. It's a very like supportive DIY type of scene. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, I have a very low tech setup. I have a USB microphone and I have Audacity on my laptop.
A dream.
And that's how I record. I admire and envy people that have more skills than I do in the like production / engineering side of making music, but that is not something I have developed as much as I could have.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good start, and like you're putting yourself out there regardless. I think some people are always afraid to, not always, but some people can be too afraid to begin, you know what I mean? Because they don't have the right setup or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's admirable that you're beginning in the way that you know how.
Yeah, I mean, it's better to make it exist than not exist, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of gigging, like how often are you trying to go out there and play some gigs?
The ideal would be once a week. I also work a lot, so that's hard, especially in the summer when I'm farming and I'm just bone tired all the time.
Yeah.
like twice a month would be good. I'm at about twice a month these days,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Nice.
But
And are you playing mostly like around your town? Do you have like some aspirations to like where you'd like to play?
I want to play in Burlington.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, come back, play with us, hear more.
I would love to.
Yeah, there's some great venues here downtown.
Yeah, I would love to break into that scene.
Yeah, that would be totally fun. And how often do you feel like you're like rehearsing for these gigs? Like how much of your time do you think?
Not that much, because I
Interesting.
know all the songs that I play pretty well. So I'll like last gig I had was on Saturday, and I wrote my set list on Friday, and like played through it once and was like, I guess I'm going.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so what are your favorite places that you've played at, and any fun like gig stories?
the Underground in Randolph is an awesome venue. I've played there twice. I played there once in the summer and once just this past winter solstice. And it's such a cool spot. It's like literally underground. It's like a basement kind of venue. It's also a studio. The guy who runs it, Vincent, is awesome. Does great sound. I've had a lot of fun playing there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any good gig stories though. Yeah.
The Underground. Well, I guess another question would be, when people come to your gigs, what do you kind of hope that they take away from your set?
I don't know if I've thought about that in those terms before. I guess I just hope that they like the music and feel moved by it. A lot of the times, like, I'm inviting my friends to come to my shows, and sometimes they like maybe haven't heard me play before, or like know that I write music but haven't heard any of it. And so I think it's nice when like people that I know in real life hear this other side of me that like I don't bring to like work or just normal hanging out.
Yeah. And how would you just like describe like your sound? So obviously you're a folk artist, but do you have like any, like when you try to like describe to your friends like what you do when you're on stage, like how do you kind of give them the synopsis?
Yeah, always very difficult to do. Like to self-describe is super challenging to me. I try to avoid it. I try to just say, come to my show if you want to know.
Hear it for yourself.
But if I had to, indie shit.
Yeah.
Sad. Someone I know, a musician friend of mine, once described me as a gender fluid Bob Dylan, which I was very flattered by.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always tricky, like to try to label it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, one thing too is, do you feel like, I mean, speaking from experience, because I also write music, I feel like I only write like sad songs. Do you feel like that's true for you?
Yes.
Or do you feel like you draw the most inspiration from like, you know, hard times rather than
so real.
the happy? So yeah, like
It's
what is
so
it like
real.
for you?
It's so real. It's kind of actually annoying almost at this point that I'm like, everything I write, even when it's not expressly sad, still has this like sad feeling to it. And I don't really know why that is. And I also think that's part of like my dry spell this summer. I was like really happy this summer.
Yes.
And you would think that should be like a fount of inspiration, but I was like working all the time, loving my work, just like super tired from work all the time, content. And I was like, I have nothing to write. But it is a challenge. I'm glad you experienced that too, because well, I'm not, but like
you put it so perfectly. I am experiencing the same thing. I'm too happy, so I'm not writing. And
I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, I just need to like fall in love right now and have it be like horrible and heartbreaking, and then I'll write again.
Yeah, we need something bad to happen to us. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but maybe we need it. Who knows?
Maybe we do. Not too bad, but
no,
like a little bad.
Just enough for like a little bit of a story.
Yeah.
Well, we would love to hear your third song. So what have you got?
Cool. This one I chose to play because my mom said it's her favorite. It's called Smoking Gun Heart.
I was feeling sad that day, and so you took me to the place you called a graveyard. It was a dumping ground. We picked among the cattle bones, just like a pair of hungry crows, and I took home a cow's skull that I found. Put it on the kitchen table, stare it down, singing, oh my bones, my aching bones, I wanna lay them down and pick them all apart. Oh, the only thing that could feel more alone, darling, is my carcass of a heart. You were feeling sad that night, took cocaine from a hollow point, and wondered why you couldn't get to sleep. So we sat up till the morning, smoking Camels on the floor, and talked about the ones we couldn't keep. Light another cigarette and stare it down, singing, no, you're never, never getting over her. She got you good, she had you from the start. And the only thing that's worse than when somebody doesn't miss you is when you take a hollow point to the heart. And the lever action Winchester that used to be your grandmother's is lying on the couch in plain sight. You wake up and get stoned, I forget to take my Lexapro. I don't know how we keep on getting by. Load another barrel up and stare it down, singing, no, you're never, never getting out of this. You took the shot, you're guilty as charged. And the only thing that's worse than getting caught red-handed is getting caught with a smoking gun of a heart. Is getting caught with a smoking gun of a heart.
FEZ Silk. So on top of being a farmer, you also shared in your bio that you're also a visual artist and a poet and just a writer more in general.
True.
So a lot of really amazing artistic things coming out of your brain. So what is your style as like a visual artist and like a poet? And do you feel like that style is similar to your music or different?
I haven't really compared them in my head directly like that. My visual art style is like very representational, very like realistic. I also had like a sort of classical background in art. I did a lot of oil paintings in high school and in my, over the last few years. I love drawing people. I love drawing the human figure.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like pretty realistic, I would say. I like drawing people doing things. And I guess my poetry is similar in that like it grew out of a very traditional style. Like when I was in early high school, I would only write like formal, like metered rhyming poetry. I would write like sonnets on sonnets and like just like I was like quite pretentious at that time, possibly still am, some would say. And was like, yeah, very traditional in my style in both visual art and poetry. And I guess that maybe that is also the case in my music, that it like came from a place of like traditionalism, I guess.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. And do you, showcase your art anywhere too? Do you do any like poetry readings? Like, are you pursuing those two passions as well on top of like doing music gigs?
Yeah, not so much actively at the moment. I would like to, but just haven't, like since I've lived in Vermont, haven't really had the energy or time to even make a lot of visual art or poetry. or to have it exhibited. When I lived in Virginia, I had like a couple art shows and like sold some art, did some commissions. That was fun. But it takes also space, and I don't have a space right now to make art in that has like the right light and the right...
And just room, maybe.
Yeah, just room.
I feel like, yeah, if you're doing a big canvas, it can take up a whole room.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess in terms of like poetry, obviously songwriting is sort of a form of poetry.
Yeah, adjacent.
Yeah, adjacent.
Say.
They're sisters, perhaps. So I feel like it kind of makes sense that you would do both.
Yeah.
But do you feel like your poetry still is kind of structured in that traditional way versus I feel like your songwriting is more like free flowing? Would you say that's right? Do you feel like you do like a mix of different types of poems now?
I think I write over the last couple years, or like 3 or 4 years, I've written a lot of free verse. Like my poetry tends to be even sort of almost like borderline prose poetry.
Okay.
But it's, to me, a very different process than writing music, because like a song, you have the vehicle of not only the words but also the melody and the harmony through which to convey what you're trying to convey, whereas poetry, like, you only have the cadence of the words and the meaning of the words. So I do feel they both have their separate places, and like to me they're not really transferable. Like if I write a poem, I can't really set it to music, and vice versa. Like I would feel weird like reading out my lyrics, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, I was kind of gonna ask, like, if an idea ever comes to you and you're like, should I write it as a poem or should I write it as a song? Has that ever like happened to you? Or even should I like put it in a painting?
I think that does happen. Like sometimes I'm like, what am I trying, like, what medium is the correct medium through which to express this idea I'm trying to express? And sometimes you do all three. Like I've done drawings that I've then written songs of, or like, you know, written a poem and then written a song on the same subject. But I find they, like, each medium that you approach a subject through, you represent it in a slightly different light.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And in terms of like your own music and doing like do you do any art for your like music promotions, like, or do you want to like cover art, like stickers or anything? Like, does that appeal to you? Is that something that you have done or would want to do too, to utilize both skills?
I think it would be fun. I haven't thought as much about it. Just because I haven't, I don't know, I guess maybe my brain isn't quite in like the like make merch phase of things yet. But I also think it would be interesting to collaborate with other artists on things like cover art and get like someone else's brain reflecting what they feel and see from my music. Just because, like, I don't know, too much of one person's artistic vision. I don't know, maybe it would work either way, but I would be like very interested to see what other artists would come up with too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems like you kind of are doing that if you're like going to the museums and the art galleries to find inspiration anyways, you know. Maybe it's not like, I mean, completely collaborative, but
no man is an island, right?
Well, are there also like, I always like to ask songwriters and performers themselves, who are you like loving to listen to at the moment? Like, what artists do you feel like have been your recent inspirations?
It's a good question, and one I never know how to answer because my phases like flip-flop so quickly. Who have I been listening to a lot of? I've been listening to a fair amount of music in other languages. I've been listening to a lot of Hebrew music and Arabic music.
Very cool.
And French music. I've been listening to some like more modern jazz lately, which has been kind of fun. Then also just like I'm always listening to like Hozier, like, or like, Vampire Weekend.
Yeah,
all the time.
Do you feel like any of those artists and their works like infiltrate kind of into anything that you're writing at the moment? Have you found that like listening to music?
A lot less than I would think.
Okay,
I
yeah.
feel like my music actually really doesn't sound very much like the people I listen to the most.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's a good range too. So how do you go about discovering all of the music from the different countries? Like
Spotify.
yeah,
The
just
algorithm.
The algorithm knows you.
Or like sometimes other people recommend things to me and I'll be like, oh, that's really cool. Let me listen to more of that.
And do you know other languages, or are you like listening just to like tune in?
I speak Spanish and I speak some Italian because I spent like a long time in Italy last year. And I am in the process of relearning my Hebrew, which I forgot.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting experience to listen to music where you don't know the words.
Yeah.
How do you find like that experience to be? And like, do you listen and then kind of like look up the lyrics, or do you kind of just experience it as you experience it?
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will look them up, but sometimes I'm listening to it and I'm actively like, whoa, this could be saying anything right now.
Right.
Like I really have no idea. But it's amazing how much can still be conveyed.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like just love language and like the sounds of different languages. And love hearing like music in other languages. Just like the way the sounds are is so wonderful to my ears.
Yeah. And are the different artists that you're listening to from different countries, are they contemporary, or are you listening to like older, like more classical or that type of style with older composers?
I honestly don't really know because I don't I haven't investigated all of it. But it's a lot of it is like pretty contemporary.
Okay, yeah. And then, I mean, another fun question. They can be alive or dead. If you had to choose like your dream artist collab or like a band, if you put together your dream band,
ooh,
who would you want to be in your lineup?
Like to play my music, or like this is just an artist I want to play with?
I mean, I guess either. I'm kind of curious if there's a difference in your answer for both of the different
I think there
options.
would be, because like the people I would most want to make music with, I don't think I would have the nerve to ask them to play my music. Oh, that's such a good question. It's tricky too, because like my favorite artists that I idolize the most are such a different musical style from the music I make that I'm like, I don't even know if I could play with them, you know? Like David Bowie. Love David Bowie.
Yeah.
Like if the question had been like, who would you just want to have a long conversation with? That would
David
be
Bowie.
the immediate answer. I don't know if like we would be musically compatible.
Yeah.
Though, you know?
You'd stylistically maybe change
Yeah.
a decent amount.
Yeah, his really early stuff, similar.
Yeah.
But everything else? Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I have to think on that.
Yeah.
I can't.
I mean, yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Especially with the alive or dead. Like, so
Yeah.
we'll let you ponder it and you can let us know next time. We have one more song for you to play. So what will be your last song tonight?
My last song is called Secretariat, after the racehorse. I like to give just a tiny bit of background about this one. When I was little, my dad told me that Secretariat, when he died in the 80s, they cut him open and they found out that his heart was 3 times the size of a normal racehorse's heart. And they think that's why he could run so fast. But that fact always stuck with me. And then a couple years ago, I wrote this song. And it's not really about racehorses, but it sort of is.
I've got a theory, my heart is too big for me. get so tired of having to carry it. Wish that would mean I could run like a racehorse, 'cause baby, I'd tear up this town. I've got a secret I've been hiding for a while now. Oh, but I have tried my best to bury it. The doctor said that if I don't pull through this, they're gonna have to put me down. So please run your hands over all of my bones, baby. Tell me I'm sound, I can do this. Promise I'll win if I win by a nose, baby. I'll run my hardest for you. Swear I'm a good stud with only a few things amiss, but I could give you anything you want. It's off to the races with me. I'll show you my paces and you will agree that I could give you anything you want. The human heart weighs 9 ounces on average, or at least that's what my research would indicate. I've never seen one in person, I guess that I don't really know. But when I get sad enough, I imagine that I get to try out a little experiment. Reach in my rib cage and dig around till I find my heart and pull it out whole. It would be such a relief, 'cause it's too much to deal with to feel all the feelings that fill me. And I just can't wait till they do the necropsy. Tell me what finally kills me is I have a bad heart with nothing that you will miss. But I could give you anything you want. Baby, I'd go lame for you. I'd run a mile with a stone in my shoe. Oh, I could give you anything you want. And I have this dream where I'm running in circles around and around, and I never vary it. I'm gonna place first in the Triple Crown one of these days, and they're gonna hang a wreath on my neck for me. Tell me I've beat Secretariat, and you're gonna smile and tell me you're proud of me and come down to lead me away. Oh, you're gonna smile and tell me you're proud of me and come down to lead me away.
Secretariat by Fez Silk. So we are at the end of the show, and we always like to give our guests the opportunity to really promote yourself and let listeners know how best we can support you. So the floor is yours to do just that.
Thank you. My music is available on YouTube at youtube.com/@officiallyfez and on Bandcamp at officiallyfez.bandcamp.com, I think. And you can hear it there on Bandcamp. You can send me money if you want. And I think you can also contact me through Bandcamp, so if you want to book me, do that. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And listeners, thanks so much for tuning in to Rocket Shop Radio Hour. Next week, we have Moth Mouth in the studio, so make sure to tune in at the same time, same place. But as for now, this has been Rocket Shop. I'm your host, Abby BK, and we hope you have a wonderful day or night. We'll see you next week.
Woohoo! Thanks, guys.
Thank you.